All right, here's a fun story, at least for me. Kathy Hochul, Unchained, question mark. I just find it funny to see, like, she was picked by Cuomo to not be a threat to him, right? I mean, this is the way that guy operated. But then he's a total creep, had to resign, had to leave office. And so she became the governor. She won re-election more narrowly than she probably should have in New York State. I mean, more narrowly than she should have. Nancy Pelosi called her out and was saying how she's a drag on the rest of New York Democrats. So she's not the best politician, but she's like sort of being handed a gift by Donald Trump to be like, I'm the real New Yorker and I'm going to stand up to the king. Speaking of that, I mean, Bradley, pull up the king thing. So, like, this series of events is that Eric Adams is being extorted by the Trump Department of Justice to enforce...
Openly being extorted. We should really
openly
ram that home. Yeah.
Like, exactly.
It is so
like,
obvious.
It was a quid pro quo.
Yeah, they did it. I'm sure you guys played the clip. The head of ICE said it on Fox News, sitting next to Eric Adams. If you don't know, if you cause any trouble for us with what we're set out to do here in New York, we won't be sitting here together on TV. I'll be up in your office saying, what happened to our deal? What deal? What are you talking about? What? Huh?
Right. And the prosecutor who resigned called it a quid pro quo in the actual document. The, again, Trump-appointed Federalist Society Scalia clerk, who was appointed on January 21st, said that in her resignation letter, just to give you a sense of how insanely corrupt this is. So basically, Trump truths about this. He decides, he decrees, the king, congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king. Anybody that lives in Manhattan or New York, including like a bunch of these Barstool chuds, are tweeting angrily about this because they're like, oh, actually, congestion pricing is pretty awesome. We have way less traffic. The air feels better. Ambulances can get from one part of the city to the other, and it can save literal lives. We're really enjoying it. And so they were pushing back, funnily enough, on social media. It's popular within the city. But Hochul also has to contend with, you know, the upstate areas, and Phil Murphy right now is sucking up to Donald Trump because the New Jersey commuters are all upset that, God forbid, they have to take public transit to go into the city or pay a $9 toll. The people who are lower income are exempt from this, folks. You can get a waiver. So it's just wealthier suburbanites who are pissed that they have to pay a fee to drive into the city. So Trump decrees it's over. He can't do that. It's a state law. It was passed in New York State. It's being implemented. Subway repairs are being funded by this. It's already underway. And then do you have the photo of him tweeting out he tweeted out the Photoshop Time magazine cover of him saying, I'm the king. We don't need it. People have seen it before, whatever, maybe for later, with a crown on his head. And here's Kathy Hochul responding to it. And she got a little spicy, said the damn word. Ooh.
Governor, you canceled a meeting with Donald Trump last week. Do you regret doing that, where you could have maybe struck a deal with him? And would you still be willing to strike a deal with him now if he agrees to give the $13 billion or whatever it would be if congestion pricing is turned off?
Bernadette, there is no connection between me saying to him last week, the day he invited me to come down to have this conversation, which I have been pursuing, and then 3 hours later, I see on national television that his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is now saying she's filing charges against me as governor of New York. I called up the president and said, I'm not coming down tomorrow. I don't know what your plan is. You're going to slap handcuffs on my goddamn hands? So I'm not coming down, but I will be back later in the week, which would be this week, when our national governors gather. And he said, that's fine. We'll get together and we'll talk. That's why I know it has no bearing, despite the premise behind the question.
All right. Dark Kathy, what are you going to do? Slap handcuffs on my goddamn hands? I'll go to jail to protect the congestion pricing. So this
was someone, by the way, who just a couple of months ago had paused the
how times have changed.
I know. Because it ended up being an insanely popular policy here in New York.
Yes.
Like there's video
more
after
popular
video of people like talking shit about it, and then like a few days later posting another video. It's like, I've been driving here with congestion pricing, and I got to say, I'm sorry for what I said. This is great.
Yeah. So she's feeling herself a little right now. She's feeling a little emboldened, and she gets gifts like this. I mean, she gets to do the it's not nationalism, statism, whatever, but like New York federalism sovereignty, the New York pride thing, because Trump's just like, you know, he's triggering the libs with this. That's what his supporters love about him. But like, everybody's supposed to be your constituent as the president. Like, not to be corny about this, but who are you triggering? The people that you're supposed to be protecting and serving and like using the Constitution to help. I mean, that's kind of the core promise of the presidency, ideally. But here's the photo of him. Congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king. And then he put out this Photoshop Time magazine cover of him, which he loved to do at his golf courses prior to this.
It's interesting that these people are the ones who celebrate Western civilization, because in my opinion, one of the things that I would associate with maybe development of the Western hemisphere is not doing king stuff.
Well, Hochul said that at another point in her press conference, like, we fought 250 years ago against the king, and we're not going to have one now. And so it's easy.
France did too.
It's an easy note to hit. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny to see him reinvigorating her, because she was primed for a serious and potentially like fatal for her political career primary challenge just, you know, around the corner, and still might happen, but
should still happen.
It probably should. Yeah. But I mean, Delgado is the same kind of person. So, I mean, or Richie Torres is the other person that is being floated. And frankly, I'd rather have Hochul over Richie Torres. But I pretty much want to have any other Democrat.
If the state would vote for Richie Torres, we need to start talking about voters being the problem again.
Yeah. But thoughts, you guys, on this whole shenanigans? These whole shenanigans here?
I mean, yeah, I think this is all to distract people. You know, I hate to call what Trump does a distraction, because there are always a human cost to it. But so much of what he's been doing over the past like 3 weeks seems to be like trying to distract his voters from the fact that he's like firing half of them. And also, like, you know, the price of eggs hasn't gone down. And so, like, look at me, like, trigger the governor of New York, that lib state. Look at me, like, you know, beefing with, I don't know, Rashida Tlaib online, like things that are going to, I think, not really be like sustainable to get people like to forget that they're being like, consistently made poorer. Right. I mean, I thought that was a big part of why he had that like press conference with Elon, too, because, you know, on every local news channel you watch now, there are just like endless coverage of like, 50 people from the USDA in Iowa were fired, and they make sure that the soil is clean. And also the price of eggs just hit $14 here. And, you know, they're saying there's going to be a shortage of this. Like, the news all over America is like bad. And I think it's going to catch up with him right now. He's still in that phase of like, you got to let the chef cook. You know, Biden really screwed things up. Look at me triggering the libs. Like, but you can only distract people, I think, from the material conditions that they're experiencing for so long. Like I said on my own stream, I was just like, you know, America's out of bread, so we're getting a lot of circuses, and so, like, you know, Trump is that. Like, he's making the circus as big as possible before people become rightfully like aware that he's part of the problem.
His disapproval rating has gone up 10 points in a month. It went from 41% to 51%. I headlined that yesterday, and it's like that's a very quick turnaround. Usually the honeymoon lasts a little bit longer than, you know, the equivalent of 12 hours.
Planes are falling from the sky.
President years.
It's hard to ignore. Planes are falling from the sky.
Yes. President plane crash, trademark it.
There was Emma, excuse me, it's Captain Chaos.
Oh, sorry, Captain plane crash.
Harry Enton, the polling expert on CNN, had a segment today that basically showed that every recent poll is showing a multiple point step down already, and also that he's even underwater specifically when as you were saying, when it specifically comes to the economy, which is surprising because seemingly that was his biggest benchmark relative
Usually
to Harris
Republicans.
and Republicans in general, but relative to Harris, who that was always, I think, the issue in the 2024 cycle, and he's already hemorrhaging support on that specific front as well.
Yeah, and on that front, there's a lot to criticize Hakeem Jeffries for and Chuck Schumer, although I think the ultimate goal should be to remove them because I don't think they can be good. But people need to stop getting mad that they're emphasizing things like egg prices and stuff like that. That is an improvement for what the people who want them to just focus on the sort of power grab constitutionally. I think that's important too. But what's really going after Trump's numbers right now is the economic stuff that he's not going to be able to defy. And to have Democrats emphasizing that should be encouraged.
Yeah, Ryan from Rochester writes in, Biden couldn't distract people from their material conditions. Now Trump inherits that inescapable situation, right? Trump's a better distractor because of how he acts. But my issue with Jeffries and Chuck Schumer on that specific issue, broadly, I think their messaging is one of a massive problem and their lack of desire to fight. But it's point out the egg prices and the material conditions and then offer an alternative. They're not doing that. They're still just criticizing him on that terrain. But I didn't even, I think, connect, just to clarify for people, why Hochul was even, what is the connection of Eric Adams and him going after Hochul? Pam Bondi's apparently said you're next last week to Hochul and State AG Letitia James because they are a part of this group that is considering removing Eric Adams because he is compromised by being extorted by the president of the United States. They haven't even done it yet. They just put together a panel to consider doing it. And I was pretty pissed about the fact that they hadn't just done it. Obviously, he's compromised, and I'm concerned for immigrants in the city being rounded up by ICE. So you have to weigh that. But the other consideration apparently is that if Adams gets removed after March 26, then they don't have to do a special election. The concern is that if they remove him prior to that date, a special election will have to be held before there is the primary, where I'm ranking Mamdani first. I hope a lot of other people do. It's a real opportunity for us as New Yorkers. The concern is that because Andrew Cuomo has such name recognition, that he would win in a special election, and that would give him a significant advantage going into that primary. So the deadline is March 26, apparently, and then after that, you wouldn't need to have a special election prior to the primary in June.
Also, just a note related to Jeffries on this front. Jeff Colton, reporter, 8 black state legislators asked Hochul not to remove Adams. Quote, our communities will never let it forget, and it will never forget it if she does, and she should leave it up to voters. I've seen Jabari Brispert point out the sort of silliness of this. But I would also just emphasize what Jeff Colton says in the second part. Led by Brooklyn Dem leaders Rodney Spichot Hermelin, list also includes lawmakers close to Jeffries.
Yeah. And also, the man that would replace Eric Adams is also a black man. So it's just it just gets a little ridiculous at this point. I mean,
that's just also the New York machine just desperately clinging on to what they know is theirs, which is, Adams is going to be in their corner if he hangs on, and someone like Jumaane Williams, the New York City public advocate who would be his successor, is resolutely anti-machine.
Right. I mean, do you remember when the Congressional Black Caucus endorsed Elliot Engel when Jamal Bowman was running against him? I mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy there.
This is corruption. I mean, Jabari Brisport, I'll keep this respectful. Defending Eric Adams because he's a black mayor while he allows ICE to harass black immigrant communities is contradictory. And, I appreciate Jabari keeping that respectful.
Right.
And NBC is reporting just as of 15 minutes ago that Hochul, according to a source, Hochul won't remove Adams from office right now, but will limit his power and impose strict guardrails on his administration. We don't know. I don't know what that means yet, but I guess we'll find out. Apparently, she's going to have a press conference at 4 p.m.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's a tricky situation for what I just said. I mean, there's the electoral considerations, and then there's also the safety considerations for people who are immigrants. Like Eric Adams said, I think yesterday, that ICE can enter churches if they want, or refuse to decline it, and said, okay, maybe they need a warrant. Like, doubtful.
And just to be clear, like, that stuff is massively unpopular. ICE going into schools or churches, like, to the extent that they don't do that, it's not just because cities won't let them, it's because it massively backfires in terms of PR.
Also, I mean, it clearly won't stop at that as well. Like, it'll just continue to, escalate, right? Like, that's the danger of trying to ignore how it's going to impact the most vulnerable community, because, Trump will just continue to like push, and his law enforcement apparatus will continue to overstep in New York City, and the police will be emboldened as well as a result of that, like the already terrible NYPD. But yeah, no, I mean, Kathy Hochul should just call out Pam Bondi and be like, oh, I see, I thought you were going after Hillary Clinton, and now suddenly, whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to Hillary Clinton? Yeah, well, like, Hillary is still walking free. Like, just really dig it in. Remind Trump voters that they're not getting anything. It's just like, oh, yeah, I guess.
Agents of Hillary Clinton. Like, actually, you're the dog that won't bark against Hillary.
I like
Exactly.
Hochul becoming Jimmy Dore and just obsessed with the Seth Rich case all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, like, Trump has 3 puppet masters: Netanyahu, Elon Musk, and Hillary Clinton. They're just like the real, like, living tribunal behind the presidency. It's true. I mean, it's basically true.
He was at their wedding, folks.
That's very true.
Kathy Hochul goes in her press conference today. What happened to the laptop from hell?
Yeah, what happened?
Where's Hunter?
Hunter's walking free. 17 January 6ers are already back in prison due to incidents, and Hunter Biden's walking free. Yeah, deep state's really being cleaned up.
Interesting.
It's very. I'm just asking questions. I'm asking why Hillary. Oh, we're gonna send immigrants to Guantanamo. Hillary Clinton is living free. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. But I mean, I guess I just remember what he was saying. So
I remember promises made.
Yeah. Well,
She locked up yet?
Nope.
That was
Trump
my
will be in
single
jail
issue,
before-
and I was a single issue voter, and that was it.
To this day, I believe Trump or Elon will go to jail before Hillary Clinton goes to prison for anything.
This is why I can't believe in politics.
It's why you can't. It's like, you know where all your eggs are? Hillary has them. That's where she's buying them up. She's making
Her and
cakes.
Tyson.
And she's buying them up, making cakes, feeding them to, I don't know, endangered whales or something.
The mother hen of the deep state.
It's crazy. It's crazy they're out here.
Yeah. Poof. All right, that was good. A guy from Brooklyn, Schumer and Gillibrand both voted to confirm the Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who is now going to withhold federal transportation funding for New York City. Yep.
Well, he was on road rules, so he must know something about transportation.
And that's a good point.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.